First Story, by Sarah Anderson. It was a brisk autumn night when I decided to take a late-night walk through the dimly lit streets of New Orleans. The crescent moon cast eerie shadows on the cobblestone streets, and the sounds of jazz music drifted faintly from distant bars. The city had always held an air of mystique, and tonight was no different. I strolled along Chartres Street, my footsteps echoing in the quietude. A cool breeze rustled the leaves, and I pulled my coat closer to fend off the chill. As I passed the quaint antique store, a flicker of movement caught my eye. Peering through the window, I saw an elderly woman, her gnarled hands sifting through an assortment of vintage dolls. Her wild gray hair framed her face like a curtain, and her eyes, rimmed with dark circles, met mine. She offered me a crooked smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Beautiful dolls, dear," she rasped. "They've all got their own stories to tell." I nodded politely and continued my walk, but her words lingered. The night grew eerier as I ventured deeper into the French Quarter. A strange, rhythmic chanting emanated from an alleyway, and my curiosity got the better of me. I approached cautiously, only to discover a group of people dressed in tattered clothes, swaying to the unsettling cadence of their chant. In the center, a man with wild, unkempt hair stood, holding a live chicken above his head. As he brought the blade down, the chicken's death cry pierced the night. The group cheered, and a woman handed me a cup filled with a dark, pungent liquid. "A toast to Baron Samedi," she said, her eyes gleaming with an otherworldly fervor. I declined the drink and fled the alley. My heart raced as I left behind the sinister congregation. This was New Orleans, a city of strange rituals and voodoo, but what I had witnessed went beyond the ordinary. The next leg of my journey took me to an old cemetery. The moss-draped oak trees cast long, eerie shadows across the uneven ground. I had heard tales of the city's above-ground graves and the restless spirits that inhabited them, and though I didn't believe in the supernatural, a chill ran down my spine. My footsteps echoed as I walked among the mausoleums, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Just as I was about to leave, I heard a soft whisper behind me. "Don't leave," it said, almost too faint to hear. I turned, but there was no one there. It was as if the very air around me held secrets and whispers of the past. I quickened my pace, eager to escape the eerie cemetery. My late-night walk through the dark streets of New Orleans continued, and as I reached the Mississippi River, the city's unique atmosphere seemed to intensify. I could hear the distant wail of a saxophone, the laughter of revelers, and the clinking of glasses from riverfront bars. But beneath it all, there was an undercurrent of something darker, something not quite right. As I approached a dimly lit alley, I felt a presence behind me. I turned to find a man in a tattered coat and a wide-brimmed hat, his face obscured by shadows. He followed me, his steps matching mine with eerie precision. My heart pounded, and I quickened my pace. I ducked into a narrow, winding street, hoping to lose him, but he persisted. Panic welled up inside me as I realized I was being followed. I knew I had to find help, so I rushed into a nearby bar and approached the bartender. I described the man who was following me, but when I turned to point him out, he had vanished. The bartender shook his head, a grave expression on his face. "You're not the first to encounter him," he said. "They call him the Shadow Man. He's been haunting these streets for years, and no one knows who he is or what he wants." My heart raced as I realized that my late-night walk had led me into a world of strange and unsettling encounters. New Orleans was a city of beauty and mystery, but it was also a city where the line between reality and the inexplicable blurred in the darkness of the night. Second story, by Michael Carter. Late one winter evening in the heart of New York City, I decided to take a solitary stroll through Central Park. The city that never sleeps had a different aura at night. The park was shrouded in an eerie silence, the only sound being the distant hum of traffic. I hoped for tranquility, but I encountered something far more unsettling. As I wandered deeper into the park, I came across a small clearing where a circle of people stood, their faces obscured by hooded cloaks. In the center of the circle lay a massive, ornate book, and they chanted in a language I couldn't recognize. The atmosphere was charged with an otherworldly energy. I watched in disbelief as the group's leader, a tall man with a commanding presence, raised a dagger above his head. With a swift motion, he cut his palm and dripped his blood onto the book. The others followed suit, and the book seemed to pulse with life. Fear gripped me as I realized that I had stumbled upon some kind of dark ritual. Panicking, I turned and made my way out of the park, my footsteps echoing through the empty walkways. But as I left, I could still hear the faint, haunting chants in the distance. As I walked further into the city, the streets became emptier, and an unsettling feeling settled in my gut. I couldn't shake the memory of the ritual, and my pace quickened. I soon found myself in an unfamiliar neighborhood, the streetlights flickering overhead. A figure emerged from the shadows, and I could feel their eyes on me. It was a man, his face obscured by a tattered hood. He followed at a distance, never saying a word, but his presence was suffocating. I tried to lose him in the labyrinthine streets, but he was relentless. I ducked into a small, decrepit alley, hoping to shake off my pursuer, but it only led me deeper into an unfamiliar part of the city. The buildings here were ancient, their facades covered in layers of grime. I could hear distant whispers in the wind, like voices from another time. As I turned a corner, I came upon an old, dilapidated church, its windows shattered, and ivy creeping up its walls. It stood as a forgotten relic of the past, and I felt an irresistible urge to enter. Inside, the church was a sanctuary of darkness. The only light came from a row of flickering candles on the altar. At the front of the church, a group of people, similarly cloaked, knelt in prayer. Their faces remained hidden, but their whispers grew louder and more fervent. It was as if they were calling upon forces beyond our understanding. I turned to leave, but a cold hand gripped my shoulder. A cloaked figure had materialized behind me. Their grip tightened, and a voice hissed in my ear. "You should join us." With all the strength I could muster, I broke free and fled the church, my heart pounding. The city had revealed a nightmarish underbelly I could never have imagined. I had walked its dark streets, and they had shown me a world of ritualistic secrecy and eerie encounters, leaving me with a sense of dread that would linger long after the night had passed. Third story, by Emma Sinclair. Late one chilly evening in the historic city of Edinburgh, I decided to take a solitary walk through the eerie alleyways of the old town. The cobbled streets and centuries-old buildings exuded an air of ancient mystery, and the city's dark history seemed to seep through the very stones beneath my feet. I started near the Royal Mile, where I could hear the faint echoes of centuries-old bagpipes still haunting the alleys. As I delved deeper into the narrow passages, the gas lamps lining the streets cast long, flickering shadows. The old town, once a place of gruesome murders and eerie legends, was a far cry from the bustling tourist hub it had become in the daytime. As I turned a corner, I stumbled upon a dimly lit pub that seemed plucked from a time long past. Inside, the patrons were huddled around a table, deeply engrossed in a card game. Their faces were drawn and pale, and the atmosphere felt stifling. I ordered a drink and observed them, and it was clear they were playing for more than money. A hushed conversation reached my ears. They spoke of a local legend, a curse that had plagued the old town for centuries. Those who had delved too deep into its dark history had met gruesome ends. The pub's regulars shared chilling stories of people vanishing without a trace, never to be seen again. Leaving the pub, I continued my walk, my mind filled with unsettling thoughts. The city, with its twisting alleys and towering stone buildings, was a labyrinth that concealed ancient secrets. The further I walked, the more I felt the weight of those secrets bearing down on me. In an alleyway, I encountered a beggar who sat huddled in the shadows. His eyes were shrouded in darkness, and his ragged appearance gave him a ghostly air. He extended a trembling hand, and I gave him some spare change. In a raspy whisper, he warned me not to linger in the old town after dark, for the ancient spirits that dwelled here would not take kindly to intruders. Ignoring his advice, I ventured deeper into the heart of the old town, determined to explore its haunted past. I soon found myself at the gates of Greyfriars Kirkyard, a cemetery known for its restless spirits. The air was thick with foreboding, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. As I moved among the moss-covered tombstones, I heard faint cries and whispers on the wind. A sense of dread washed over me, and I quickened my pace. It was as though the very earth beneath me held the memories of the countless souls laid to rest in that ancient burial ground. Turning to leave, I saw a figure in the distance. A man in a long, tattered coat and a top hat stood beside a weathered gravestone. He appeared to be scribbling something in a tattered notebook. As I drew closer, I realized he was etching a strange symbol onto the stone, and his movements were mechanical, as if in a trance. My footsteps grew louder as I approached, and he turned to face me, his eyes hollow and devoid of emotion. With a slow, deliberate gesture, he pointed toward the symbol he had drawn. "Do you know the story of the cursed stone?" he asked, his voice filled with an unsettling calm. I shook my head, my heart pounding. The man began to recount a tale of an ancient curse, one that had claimed the lives of those who dared to disturb the grave marked by the symbol. The details were harrowing, and the more he spoke, the more I felt the weight of the curse pressing down on me. With a sense of impending doom, I turned and fled the cemetery, the man's eerie laughter echoing in my ears. Edinburgh's dark streets had revealed a world of ancient legends and ominous encounters, leaving me with a lingering sense of unease that would haunt me for nights to come. Each of these stories takes you on a thrilling journey through the dark streets of different cities, where the line between reality and the inexplicable blurs, leaving the narrators with a sense of dread that lingers long after their late-night walks have ended. Fourth Story, by Daniel Carter. On a quiet and desolate night in the small town of Lynchburg, Virginia, I decided to take a solitary walk through the dimly lit streets. Lynchburg was known for its historical charm and picturesque views, but on this particular evening, the town had a different, more sinister atmosphere. I began my journey on Main Street, where the old lampposts cast long, eerie shadows on the pavement. The town was almost deserted, and I could hear the faint whistle of the wind rustling through the bare trees. My footsteps echoed through the empty streets as I ventured deeper into the heart of Lynchburg. As I passed an abandoned warehouse, I heard a faint rustling from within, followed by whispers that sent a chill down my spine. I couldn't resist the urge to investigate. I cautiously approached the entrance, pushed the creaking door open, and peered inside. In the dim light, I saw a group of people gathered around a table. They were huddled together, faces masked by an air of secrecy. In the center of the table lay a map, marked with cryptic symbols. They whispered in hushed tones, discussing an impending event that seemed to send shivers through their very souls. I watched in fascination and fear, realizing that I had stumbled upon something far more sinister than a casual meeting. They spoke of a dark ritual, the details of which I couldn't discern, but their words left me with a sense of impending dread. Quickly, I backed away from the warehouse, not wanting to be caught eavesdropping. The town had always been known for its history, but I had never suspected it concealed such enigmatic secrets. My late-night walk led me to an old cemetery on the outskirts of town. The gravestones were weathered, and the entire place was overgrown with ivy and wildflowers. The moonlight filtered through the branches of the ancient oak trees, casting eerie patterns on the ground. As I walked among the graves, I could hear faint whispers on the wind. It was as if the souls of the departed were trying to communicate with me. The air grew heavy, and I felt an unsettling presence. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone among the tombstones. Just as I was about to leave, I heard a soft, mournful voice whispering my name. "Daniel," it said, its tone filled with sorrow and longing. I turned, but there was no one there. The voice continued to call my name, and I could feel it resonating deep within my soul. Terrified, I fled the cemetery, my heart racing. Lynchburg's quiet streets had revealed a world of eerie secrets, leaving me with an overwhelming sense of unease that would haunt me for nights to come. Fifth Story, by Aidan Reynolds. One chilly night in the historic city of Prague, I decided to take a late-night stroll through the labyrinthine streets of the old town. The centuries-old buildings loomed overhead, and the cobblestone streets exuded an air of age-old mystery. It was a city steeped in history, and on this particular night, it seemed that the past had come to life. I wandered through the winding streets, the gas lamps casting eerie, elongated shadows. As I turned a corner, I stumbled upon an old apothecary's shop, its windows filled with jars of peculiar herbs and strange concoctions. The door creaked open, revealing an elderly woman with gnarled hands and a knowing smile. She beckoned me inside with a bony finger. The shop's interior was filled with the scent of dried herbs and incense. The woman's eyes, rimmed with dark circles, met mine. She spoke in a raspy voice, offering me a cup of tea infused with herbs I couldn't identify. "It will reveal your true self," she said, her gaze piercing into my soul. I declined her offer and left the shop, but her words lingered, leaving me with a sense of disquiet. The old woman had an air of mystique about her, and her words felt like a cryptic message. I continued my journey through the city, passing through quiet squares and narrow alleys. As I ventured deeper into the old town, I came across a group of people huddled together in front of an ancient cathedral. They were cloaked in tattered robes, and their faces were obscured by shadow. In the center of the group stood a man with a commanding presence. He held an ornate book, and the group chanted in a language that sent shivers down my spine. The night air was filled with an otherworldly energy, and the atmosphere grew heavy with foreboding. The man raised a dagger above his head and sliced his palm, the blood dripping onto the book's pages. The others followed suit, and the book seemed to pulse with life. I watched in disbelief as they conducted a dark ritual, their voices growing more fervent with each passing moment. Fear seized me, and I turned to leave. But as I did, the group's leader turned and fixed his gaze on me. His eyes were filled with an unsettling intensity, as if he had seen something in me that I couldn't comprehend. I fled from the scene, my heart pounding. Prague, with its ancient streets and enigmatic history, had revealed a world of dark rituals and eerie encounters that I could never have imagined. The city had left me with a sense of dread that would haunt me for nights to come. Sixth Story, by Charlotte Miller. One quiet, moonlit night in the historic city of Charleston, South Carolina, I embarked on a late-night walk through the dimly lit streets of the historic district. The cobblestone roads, lined with antebellum architecture, carried the weight of the past, and that evening, the city seemed to hold secrets that were meant to remain hidden. I started near the Battery, where the shadows of grand old mansions stretched across the moonlit streets. The faint sound of the harbor lapping at the shore was the only thing that broke the stillness of the night. My footsteps echoed through the historic district, the gas lamps casting an otherworldly glow on the cobblestones. As I strolled along the narrow streets, I noticed a group of people gathered around a small park. They stood in a circle, dressed in cloaks and chanting in a language I couldn't recognize. In the center, a fire blazed, and the flames danced with an eerie intensity. I watched from the shadows, transfixed by the scene unfolding before me. The group's leader, a woman with piercing eyes and raven black hair, raised her arms and called upon ancient deities. The air grew heavy with an otherworldly energy, and the wind began to howl. Suddenly, I felt as though I was no longer invisible to them. The woman's eyes met mine, and a shiver ran down my spine. Her gaze held a knowledge that reached deep into the core of my being. I knew that I had stumbled upon a ritual of immense power, and I had become an unwitting witness. My heart pounded, and I turned to leave, but the group's chants seemed to follow me, echoing in my ears long after I had left the park. Charleston, a city known for its southern charm and rich history, had revealed a world of dark rituals and unsettling encounters that left me with a sense of foreboding that would linger long after the night had passed. My journey led me to an old cemetery nestled in the heart of the historic district. The moss-draped oak trees cast long, eerie shadows, and the gravestones were worn with age. The night air was thick with the scent of magnolias, and the only sound was the distant hum of the harbor. As I wandered among the graves, I heard faint whispers on the wind, as if the souls of the departed were trying to communicate with me. It was as though the very earth held secrets of the past. The air grew colder, and I felt an unsettling presence, as though I was not alone among the tombstones. Just as I was about to leave, a soft voice called my name, its tone filled with sorrow. "Charlotte," it said, the sound hauntingly familiar. I turned, but there was no one there. The voice continued to call my name, and I felt it resonate deep within my soul. With a sense of unease, I fled the cemetery, the voice echoing in my ears. Charleston's historic streets had revealed a world of ancient mysteries and eerie encounters, leaving me with a lingering sense of dread that would haunt me for nights to come. Seventh Story, by James Sullivan. One chilly autumn night in the quiet, picturesque city of Heidelberg, Germany, I decided to take a late-night walk through the serene streets along the Neckar River. The city, known for its romantic charm and centuries-old architecture, had an entirely different ambience after dark. It was as if the past itself had come to life, but not in a way I had anticipated. I began my walk near the iconic Heidelberg Castle, a silhouette in the moonlit sky. The cobblestone streets were almost deserted, and the river flowed quietly beneath the old stone bridges. The city was steeped in history, and that evening, it seemed like the past was making itself known. As I strolled through the winding streets, I noticed a dimly lit tavern, the only source of light on that quiet street. The old wooden sign above the door creaked in the breeze. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to enter. The interior of the tavern was rustic, with wooden beams and candlelit tables. Patrons huddled together, their faces hidden in the shadows. The air was thick with a sense of secrecy. I ordered a drink and observed the locals, realizing that they were discussing something more ominous than the usual tales of history. They spoke of the Heidelberg student prince, a legendary figure whose existence had been lost in time. The stories were filled with darkness and tragedy, as if the city itself held the secrets of his life and death. I was entranced by their words, but they left me with a sense of foreboding. Leaving the tavern, I continued my journey through the city, passing by the old university and its dimly lit courtyards. Heidelberg was a city known for its scholars and poets, but on that night, it felt like a place of hidden knowledge and lost memories. As I ventured deeper into the old town, I came across a group of people gathered around an ancient well. They wore cloaks and chanted in a language I couldn't identify. In the center, a woman with fiery red hair raised a dagger above her head. The night air seemed to come alive with an otherworldly energy, and the atmosphere grew heavy with a sense of anticipation. I watched in fascination and fear, realizing that I had stumbled upon a ritual of unknown purpose and power. The woman's eyes met mine, and they held an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. It was as if the city itself had revealed its secrets to her, and I was a mere intruder. My heart raced, and I turned to leave, but the group's chant followed me as I walked away, as if the city's ancient spirits were echoing in the night. Heidelberg, a city known for its romanticism and classical beauty, had revealed a world of dark rituals and unsettling encounters, leaving me with a sense of dread that would linger long after the night had passed. My journey continued, and I found myself standing on the old Karl Theodor Bridge, gazing out at the tranquil Neckar River. The moonlight danced on the water, casting enchanting reflections. As I looked out at the river, I heard a soft, melodic voice calling my name, its tone filled with longing. "James," it said, the sound hauntingly familiar. I turned, but there was no one there. The voice continued to call my name, and it resonated deep within my soul. With a sense of unease, I left the bridge behind, the voice echoing in my ears. Heidelberg's serene streets had revealed a world of ancient mysteries and eerie encounters, leaving me with a lingering sense of dread that would haunt me for nights to come. Eighth Story, by Isabel Reyes. One misty night in the vibrant city of Barcelona, I decided to take a late-night walk through the bustling streets of the Gothic Quarter. The city, known for its rich history and artistic flair, had an entirely different aura after dark. It was as if the cobblestone streets held untold stories that were meant to be uncovered. I began my journey near the iconic Barcelona Cathedral, where the dimly lit alleyways crisscrossed like a maze. The ancient buildings seemed to lean in, whispering secrets from the past. The faint hum of conversation, laughter, and distant music hung in the air, but the city was otherwise still, under the shroud of the night. As I meandered through the labyrinthine streets, I came across a small courtyard. In its center, a group of people gathered, dressed in flamenco-style attire. They clapped, sang, and danced passionately to the rhythmic strumming of a guitar. The atmosphere was charged with an intensity that was both alluring and unsettling. I watched in fascination, the music and dance drawing me in like a siren's call. The group's leader, a fiery-eyed woman with jet-black hair, twirled and stomped with a ferocity that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if they were performing not just for themselves but for an unseen audience. A sense of impending darkness clung to the air, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had stumbled upon a hidden ritual. My heart raced, and I turned to leave, but the group's dance seemed to echo in my footsteps as I walked away. Barcelona, a city known for its vibrant culture and passionate artistry, had revealed a world of enigmatic performances and unsettling encounters, leaving me with a sense of foreboding that would linger long after the night had passed. My journey led me to an old park tucked away in the heart of the Gothic quarter. The gnarled branches of ancient trees cast eerie silhouettes, and the moonlight filtered through the dense canopy. The park was almost deserted, and the air was thick with the scent of ancient secrets. As I wandered among the trees, I heard faint whispers on the wind, as if the very leaves held the stories of those who had come before. It was as though the spirits of the past were trying to communicate with me. The air grew colder, and I felt an unsettling presence, as if I was not alone in the park. Just as I was about to leave, a soft voice called my name, its tone filled with sorrow and longing. "Isabel," it said, the sound hauntingly familiar. I turned, but there was no one there. The voice continued to call my name, and it resonated deep within my soul. With a sense of unease, I left the park, the voice echoing in my ears. Barcelona's vibrant streets had revealed a world of ancient mysteries and eerie encounters, leaving me with a lingering sense of dread that would haunt me for nights to come. Barcelona, a city of culture and history, had shown me that even amidst its artistic vibrancy, there were hidden secrets and unsettling encounters lurking in the shadows of its streets. Ninth Story, by Lucas Martinez. One crisp winter night in the historic city of Prague, I decided to take a late-night walk through the winding streets of the lesser town. The city, adorned with centuries-old architecture, had an unmistakable charm, but it felt different under the veil of darkness. It was as if the echoes of history had awakened, and they were not entirely benign. I began near Charles Bridge, with its iconic statues silhouetted against the moonlit sky. The cobblestone streets were nearly empty, and the gas lamps created an eerie glow on the ancient buildings. I strolled past the quaint shops and cafes that were bustling during the day but now lay in quiet slumber. As I ventured deeper into the lesser town, I noticed a small bookshop with a flickering sign that read, "Antiquariat." The dusty shelves were filled with old, leather-bound volumes and dusty relics of the past. An elderly bookseller with wispy white hair stood behind the counter, his eyes peering over the rim of his spectacles. I struck up a conversation with the bookseller, and he regaled me with tales of forgotten legends and unsolved mysteries of Prague. He spoke of the Golem of Prague, an ancient creature created to protect the city from harm, and of the buried secrets beneath the old cobblestones. His stories left me with a sense of unease, as if the city held dark secrets beneath its picturesque facade. Leaving the bookshop, I continued my journey through the narrow streets, and my steps echoed through the quiet alleyways. Prague, a city known for its rich history and enchanting architecture, seemed to harbor an undercurrent of darkness that was not easily forgotten. As I turned a corner, I stumbled upon a group of people gathered around a weathered stone statue of a saint. They wore tattered cloaks and chanted in a language I couldn't understand. In the center, a man with an intense gaze held a small, ornate box. The night seemed charged with an otherworldly energy, and the atmosphere grew heavy with foreboding. I watched in fascination and fear, realizing that I had stumbled upon a ritual of ancient significance. The group's leader, a woman with a piercing gaze, raised her arms and spoke words that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if they were summoning something from the depths of history, something that should have remained buried. My heart pounded, and I turned to leave, but the group's chant seemed to follow me, echoing through the silent streets long after I had walked away. Prague, a city known for its romanticism and architectural splendor, had revealed a world of ancient rituals and eerie encounters, leaving me with a sense of foreboding that would linger long after the night had passed. 10th Story, by Olivia Roberts. On a cool autumn night in the historic city of Salem, Massachusetts, I embarked on a late-night walk through the shadowed streets of the Witch City. The town, renowned for its dark history and haunting tales, had an atmosphere that was steeped in legends and mysteries, and that night, it felt as if the past had come to life. I began near the Salem Witch Trials Memorial, with its somber granite benches that marked the names of those accused and condemned. The cobblestone streets seemed to whisper the names of the innocent, and the night air carried the scent of autumn leaves. As I ventured deeper into the town, I came across an old apothecary's shop, its windows filled with jars of dried herbs and curiosities. The wooden sign above the door creaked in the breeze. Intrigued, I decided to step inside. The interior of the shop was dimly lit, with wooden shelves lined with curious potions and ancient books. The shopkeeper, an elderly woman with an aura of mystique, offered me a cup of tea. She spoke in hushed tones, telling me stories of the Salem witch trials, and how the town's past still haunted the present. Her tales were filled with darkness and tragedy, and they left me with a sense of foreboding. Leaving the shop, I continued my journey through the town, passing by the old Burying Point Cemetery, with its ancient gravestones and the weight of history. Salem, a city known for its historical significance and eerie legends, felt as though it were a place where the past and present intertwined in the most uncanny ways. As I turned a corner, I stumbled upon a group of people gathered in the shadows of a weathered tree, their faces hidden beneath hooded cloaks. In the center, a woman with a commanding presence held a small cauldron, from which a strange, ethereal light emanated. The night air was filled with an otherworldly energy, and the atmosphere grew heavy with anticipation. I watched in fascination and fear, realizing that I had stumbled upon a ritual that seemed to channel the very essence of Salem's dark history. The group's leader raised her arms and chanted words that sent shivers down my spine. It was as if they were calling upon the spirits of the past, summoning something beyond human understanding. My heart raced, and I turned to leave, but the group's chant seemed to follow me, echoing through the town's winding streets long after I had walked away. Salem, a city known for its historical significance and mysterious legends, had revealed a world of dark rituals and eerie encounters, leaving me with a sense of foreboding that would linger long after the night had passed. Thank you for joining us for the whole video. That video you see on screen is one of my favorite. Check it out. If you've enjoyed these horror stories, show your support by hitting the subscribe button. Did this tale send chills down your spine? Let me know in the comments.